Oh, yeah. Good. Chris, what do you think the key is to sort of jump-starting the offense or getting it to run more consistently?
I think the biggest thing is making plays early in games. When you've been able to do that, we get off to that fast start that we had, the 3 games prior to this, whether it's converting the first third down of the game, which has been, one of our engines to kickstart us, and then getting everybody opportunities, making sure we find a way to settle into the game, whatever that may be, getting our best players touches early, giving them opportunities to impact the game from the jump. Get everybody settled in, and then be able to go execute. But, it comes down to making plays and executing as we go.
For the second week in a row, one of the defenders on the other team made a comment that if they can get Trevor off his first read, they think he'll struggle. Is there something to that?
I would imagine that's defensive philosophy for every quarterback. So, I think they're saying that, whatever that may be. Obviously, we've been pretty good at being able to deliver the ball to the first read when that comes down to it. I think Trevor's, 67, 68% completion, something like that. So a lot of that comes from being able to get the ball out early to your primary read. But no, it's hitting quarterbacks, affecting quarterbacks, making quarterback hold the ball. That seems pretty universal for defending good quarterbacks.
It feels like every week we're talking about the opposing front. What is it about this Titans defensive front that can maybe have some challenges?
Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, Arden Key, Harold Landry, Pecco, you name them. They're very strong, very stout inside. They do a good job stopping the run. They've done it for a long time there. Getting Harold Landry back from injury that he was in last year, that adds the pass rush unit for him. But it's a big, physical, stout unit that does a good job stopping the run, stuffing interior gaps, really making it hard to get to the second level and block the linebackers and get explosive runs off them. So it's just something you got to find ways to be able to do it. You got to manipulate their eyes in some way, shape, or form. And, at some point in time, you got to be physical, you got to strain, you got to be able to finish blocks to convert on run situations.
How big was last week for you, just seeing specifically Dearness Johnson, what he could do maybe with some extended reps and touches?
Yeah, he's continued to play well when he's been given opportunities. And, you earn more opportunities, so there'll be chances for him to get out on the field a little bit more and continue to try to impact the game the way he did the other day. But that was nice to see. That's something we've seen from him, honestly, when he's been given opportunities.
This was the first week you had the 5 that you plan on rolling with the entire season up front. How do you review the performance by the 5 together?
It wasn't good enough. So that's something as an entire unit we could say that, regardless of position. Obviously, the offensive line's a part of that as well. I didn't think any one particular unit played well in the game the other day. So that's something. But again, playing side by side, playing great defensive fronts like we just played and we're going to play. That's something you continue to work through, and that's one of the things our group has done, from coaching staff on to players, of just continue to work, trust the process, dive into the process, dive into your work, and make sure we put our players in the best possible position.
How much do you expect Walker Little's play to possibly take a little jump up here? Because it did look like Sunday, like he struggled a bit, and I'm just wondering how much of that is, just the layoff, also going back to a different position, things like that.
Yeah, I think there's obviously, like you said, a lot of factors involved, but you could classify all those as excuses, and we just expect all our guys to produce at a high level. He certainly had a tough matchup. He'd been, he's playing a relatively new position for him in terms of he's generally been a tackle in his past and hadn't had a ton of snaps playing in there, and then he had a really tough matchup, like I mentioned, with Hargrave and those guys inside. So, we expect all our guys to continue to progress and play a little bit better.
Doug mentioned yesterday that he kind of hoped to get Ezra some snaps, and I'm just wondering, is that a little bit awkward for you as an offensive coordinator, if that's what Doug wants, to find a window to get snaps? Because usually you like to have the offensive lineman, unless there's an injury, they usually just stay in the game the whole time.
Not necessarily. If my boss wants me to do something, we're going to do that. So if we find a way to get him in there because Doug said so, then we'll find a way to do that. And again, like we've done from way back when, we've always talked about, we are constantly rolling those guys. I know you guys don't always see practice, walkthrough. Those guys, we continue to try to format different combinations, but life in the NFL, you lose linemen all the time, and you always have to prepare for your contingency plans. And so that's something we've done. We added Ezra. Ezra's getting himself healthy, getting himself introduced into the offense, and then once we feel like we fully trust him, we'll see where that goes from there.
In the past, one of the things you guys have liked to do is get Trevor on the move. Maybe you haven't done that as much with the injury. Just how much has the knee and the knee brace impacted how you call the game?
Yeah, that's certainly been something as we build plans of being conscious that, our quarterback is probably less mobile than he'd been in past. But, I think as he continues to feel healthier and healthier, if we feel like that's something that gives us an advantage against the defense, then it's something we'll be able to mix in. I feel like he'd be completely capable of doing it. I do think he's getting a little bit healthier as we go. Obviously, it's different than the New Orleans game was, pretty much we felt like he was going to be stationary. He ended up taking off and running and being our leading rusher in the game that wasn't necessarily anticipated. But, you're kind of always dealing with things here and there, and you protect your players the best way you can, but still trying to make sure you give your team the best chance to win.
Obviously, it's a bit tough after how you guys lost last Sunday to say this, but what progress have you seen from the offense this season? Where are the positives at so far?
Yeah, I feel like we've grown every single week. Obviously, it felt like last week was a step back, just in terms of, there were communication issues, there was execution issues. I don't feel like I put the guys in the best position as the game went on. The game dynamics changed, and I don't know that I adjusted as well as I would have liked to looking back at it, trying to be critical of myself. But as a unit, it felt like we'd been growing in our communication. We've been growing in kind of identifying who does what and how we can attack certain coverages and getting kind of dialed into that plan of how we like to play. But, last Sunday was definitely not good enough, and I don't know that it was necessarily a step towards progress, but we think this week can be.
Have there been enough explosive plays on the offense this year, and is there a way to create those?
No. I mean, there has not been enough consistent efficiency and consistent explosive playability. Or, putting guys in position to do that, being able to do that, getting that done. That's something, certainly that's one of our core commandments as an offense, and we haven't done that enough. So it's about finding consistency. I think when you find consistency on first and second down, which was really our biggest issue the other day in the game, you're able to run more plays. You're able to stay in more normal down situations instead of all the second and long we got ourselves in where, it's going to lean itself to a pass situation. So we want to stay ahead of the change. We want to be efficient. I think being efficient leads to the ability to create more explosive plays because you get a little bit more into your game plan and the packages that you create going into the game.
Is there maybe anything to, like, the perception when you look at the numbers is that Calvin Ridley maybe hasn't been as impactful as he has because he's drawn a lot of penalties that have moved the chains that don't go in a stat sheet?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's something to that. Obviously we've got a lot of good players, a lot of good skill players. So there's always going to be something. If Christian has a big game, Calvin doesn't, it's how do we get Calvin more involved? It's always going to be that way. We'll continue to do everything we can to give all our best players opportunities to impact the game. There's plenty of times Calvin's the primary, a play gets called, coverage takes it away. You get into the third down menu, sometimes you got this play, kill it to that play, versed on the look. He could go from being a primary to being a secondary option on certain things. So there's finding ways to do that. We also feel like we have a lot of good matchups with the players we have. So, you always kind of got to get something and take something away, and we're not going to be the type of team that we call it, you throw it to that guy regardless, because we've got a lot of opportunities for other guys to win within concepts at times. But again, each play is kind of its own thing. Sometimes it's a two-man route and you're max protecting because you're in shot possibility. The defense takes it away and you got to move on to somebody else, or we are throwing that. And then there's sometimes where if it's zone, you're working this. If it's man, you're working that. And coverage dictates certain things that get you certain spots. But we're very happy with the impact Calvin's made. We can continue to scheme, call plays that give him opportunities to make plays down the field. But his drawing of penalties, it's unfortunate that doesn't go on the stat sheet for him because I think he'd be right there with Christian in terms of around 600 yards or something like that. But those have been dynamic plays for our offense. I think he's drawn 8, and they've all been first downs for us. So we certainly appreciate it. It's unfortunate he doesn't get the recognition for it, I guess.
Is there anything really more that you can do from a preparation standpoint to minimize the turnovers? I mean, some turnovers are far different than others. Sometimes it's just a really bad mistake, and sometimes defensive guy makes an unbelievable play, right? But is there anything more that you can, because that seems to be the number one culprit in why your offense is not where you want it to be.
100%. I would completely agree. That is the number one culprit. And again, within that, you protect the ball, you get more plays, you stay efficient, you're able to create the explosive. It all kind of ties together. It goes. We're certainly trying to do everything possible. The turnovers, it's unacceptable, and it's continued for us. So we're trying to find everything possible to minimize it, to bring their attention to it. We've probably spent more time in our 2 years here than I've ever spent as a staff talking about it with the players, so they understand that. We start every Thursday with talking about turnovers and protecting the football and the stats correlated with wins and losses and turnover margin and giveaways as an offense. We start our day, obviously, with our turnover circuit. We continue to show clips, good examples, bad examples, how we can learn from things. So, it's something that's on our mind, but it's something that's got to show up in the game. We got to continue to protect the ball, and like you said, every situation is a little different. So, cool. Thanks, guys.
Really good season, maybe bumping the road against a good offense. How do you get ready with Derrick Henry and the Titans coming to town?
Well, just back to work. Anytime you don't play up to your standard, you come back and you have a bunch of things to work on, and we're back at work this week at practice, trying to get better.
What sort of went wrong last week against San Fran? What were the issues?
I think really everything. Didn't really stop the run the way we wanted to. Didn't take the ball away. Didn't pressure the quarterback enough. Just the whole gamut.
Did you notice right away that, okay, this isn't going right? And then what did you do, I guess, to sort of try to mitigate that? Or what are you thinking in terms of future game planning because of this game?
Well, really, this is one of the ones you just throw away, because when you look at it on film, like, you're seeing imposters, guys that aren't us. And we'll, back at work this week, ready to throw it out there again this Sunday.
The rookie quarterback coming your way this week. What have you thought about Will Levis and his limited action so far?
When you see him, talented, big arm, can make all the throws, and he has some weapons. So, he's a formidable challenge.
I feel like you guys stacked the box a lot this last week, and they were still able to find success. Was it more guys in the wrong spot, or are they getting moved off the ball? Communication issues?
No, it really was just technique. Guys being in the right gaps, and we got misaligned a few times, then we got cut out of the gap a few times. But it just goes back to our fundamentals, our techniques. We just have to do what we've been taught to do, and we'll get it corrected.
I think Trayvon had 2 quarterback hits in the first half. Are you starting to see that consistency just in terms of pass rush and getting pressure a little more and more?
You can see it's happening more, but overall, I think his game is continuing to progress. The run game, he's really, really solid, and in the pass game, he's starting to pick it up, and it's good to see.
What do you like about your free safety look?
We're able to, if teams do move a lot, we're able to stay on each other's side, and those guys are versatile, so they can cover receivers at some times and cover tight ends, and it just gives us freedom to be able to sit back and get guys on the field that can fit the run well and also be able to play coverage.
Devon's played a couple games now. Where does he stand, and how much more do you want to see from him?
It's just progress. Just he's playing well. He's just getting back, and he's just getting things going. But he'll continue to improve, and just like all of us, each week trying to get better.
How many running backs, just whether it was your playing career, or whether it's your coaching career, or even when you were watching football before you even got into college, have you ever seen a running back that compares with Derrick Henry in terms of him not only being the centerpiece of their offense, but them not having a whole lot of other weapons to really complement him? I mean, he had A.J. Brown as a receiver for a few years, but for the most part, he's really been a focal point more so than most running backs are in their offense, even really good ones.
Well, I don't know about that. You go back to my day, it was, the running back was a focal point. You had, we ran up against Atlanta when they had to run and shoot. It was Ironhead Hayward, and they had all the receivers, but the focal point of the offense was throw the ball around and let him run the ball against a light box. Then you go to other teams like Houston. Houston had Lorenzo White, just different guys that, back in the day were the bell cows. Emmitt Smith, he had Irving, but it was him following that offensive line. So it's running back, people like to say it's been diminished, but when there's a good one out there and we faced a bunch of good ones, it's a tough task.
If Tyson can't go, who do you roll with that corner?
Hopefully Tyson can go. Then if he can't, then we're comfortable with throwing G Money out there, Buster. He's played well for us. We have a few options, a bunch of young guys that are just chomping at the bit to get opportunity.
Greg Jr. got back in the mix this week. How do you think when he was kind of called into action there? How do you think?
I think he performed well. He went out there, and it's good to see him get back out there. He played a little special teams early, then he played defense once Tyson went down. So it was good to see him get back in action, and hopefully we'll see more of it.
Is that G Money? Greg, is G Money?
Oh no, excuse me. Yes. Greg Jr. Yes.
How have you seen the players, I guess, just respond to what happened and just moving forward now?
Well, you look at it, after a win or after a loss, you have a period of time that you get over it and you put it away. Because if you're not, you're going to be focused on it too long. And, whether it's a win or a loss, you come back to work, you correct the mistakes, and then move forward. And that's what we're doing. Last week, keep telling the guys, you look on film, that's not our standard. So that's not us. So now we get another chance this Sunday to go back out there and do it the right way.
Is DeAndre Hopkins the kind of guy who can like dictate coverages and really be like an alpha receiver?
Yeah, he's the number one. He's a guy that you have to know where he's at all times, and the quarterback really understands that he can push the ball to him, and he makes a bunch of contested catches. And they have other receivers, but he's a guy that I think he's really comfortable throwing the ball to, and he's making plays for him.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you.